Welcome to Coffee Break with Rachel V. Hill, presented by Superbook Sports. Taking a daily look at the biggest stories in Denver sports and interacting live with you, the Coffee Break fam. So sit back, relax, grab a cup of joe, and enjoy your coffee break. Here's your host, Rachel V. Hill.
Remember how I said yesterday was like Christmas morning? Well, it ended up being like Christmas, you guys, because the Chiefs lose their opener. The NFL opener, the Detroit Lions, really showing the guts that they have for this season. It's going to be a fun one. We got Richie Carney back in studio with us today as he slides in. He does like the Colin.
I know, my chair has wheels. I felt like I had to try.
Yeah, it's like Colin.
Chris Collinsworth.
Thank you. I was like, why can't I think of his
slide.
name? Yes, Chris Collinsworth. You guys, Cecil Lamley's going to join us here in a little bit as we do his Fantasy 5 tips. If you had Travis Kelce, he's hopefully going to give you some names for tight ends that you can maybe pick up still on the market as you get ready for Sunday. So much fun stuff. And then, of course, rivalry week is still here. This weekend is going to be absolutely insane with Nebraska in town. I've already seen Cornhusker fans at the airport this morning. I'm like, all right, here we go. It's time. And then, of course, you got the Raiders. Josh McDaniels coming in on Sunday. But let's talk some Thursday night football. I was not expecting it. I knew with Travis Kelce out that they were going to struggle a little bit, but I was not expecting the amount of dropped balls that we saw from the wide receivers for the Kansas City Chiefs. Andy Reid has to be fuming.
Yeah, it wasn't. The drop passes. I mean, Sky Moore had a really tough game. I mean, when you look at the freeze frames on that Lions pick six, and like the ball is literally right here, like on the freeze frame, and like somebody just screenshots and it was like this turned into a touchdown for the Lions.
Yep.
And if you're Patrick Mahomes, you've got to be sitting there going, what more could I have? He was on the move, he was under pressure, perfectly thrown ball, pick six for no reason. So there was that. But I'll say this: Detroit showed some signs that they put pressure on Patrick Mahomes.
They're the real deal.
They are. I always feel like there's like a little bit of bias for me when I support the Lions because I spent some time out there, and especially when Stafford was there, I was like a pseudo Lions fan, even though I'm not from there. But they are for real. Everyone thought, the Dan Campbell, the kneecap biting, and the 240-ounce coffees, and all that. Like, that's a shtick. It's a gimmick. It's going to get old, but. No, it's for real. And Jared Goff, who was kind of cast aside in L.A. after taking them to a Super Bowl with Sean McVay, he's finding like some second win there. But to get back to your question, the drop passes were for sure, but I saw like a weird amount of inaccurate throws from Patrick Mahomes that I'm not used to seeing. Overthrows, underthrows. I know he was moving around a lot, and I feel like that we kind of take for granted that he can razzle dazzle and make these sidearm throws and contort his body and do all that. But I think they showed that, if you can put consistent pressure in the right ways on the Chiefs, that they're not immortal.
Oh, I mean, the connection was clearly just not there. It was like, we're the defending Super Bowl champs and just went out there and you guys, it's a whole new season, right?
If Travis Kelce plays, they win by 2 touchdowns, though. I mean, let's just be
real. That connection just doesn't ever go away. I love when people do this. The Chiefs have the worst record in the league. Yeah, they do, baby. We'll take it for now, everybody.
Started from the bottom, and they're still there for another week. Another couple days.
It's so true, but I do love it. As a Broncos fan, you have to love it. Like I said, it felt like Christmas because we actually got what we were all hoping for. I was impressed, though, by the Lions for sure, and I see like a lot of people in the comments also were pretty impressed with the Lions. Does this game really matter in the long run for the Chiefs? That's kind of the big question everybody's talking about. Like, was this a foreshadowing of what their season's going to look like? If Travis Kelce is out for maybe another game, which I do not expect him to be completely honest, with the Chris Jones drama that's going on. And also, I talked about this, I think, yesterday on the show. The fact that he is still he's going to the game, which I do love. I think we have both of his agents on his side. But I'm like, how can you be okay with the situation knowing your team just lost? It really irks me. I get it. You want your payday. I understand wanting to get the money. But what if they lose 4 games because he's gone?
Yeah, no, like you were like, I love that he was there and all that. And I saw the video of it looks like his agents are straight out of The Sopranos.
Oh my gosh,
like,
so
it looks
funny.
Like 2 of the most Italian stereotypical, an Italian, I will say, the most stereotypical mobster looking dudes just sitting on each side of him. But I think it's kind of weird if for Chris Jones to do that and be in that situation. I understand you want to say like, hey, he's supporting his team, he's there and they're working through it, but that's a positive sign. Like, well, maybe, but nothing's been signed yet. And like you said, he just sat there and watched them lose a close game where an impact player like he is at a key position on the defense could have made a difference.
Yeah.
And that's weird.
It has to eat you alive a little bit. Like, I'm sure when he was sitting there watching, it had to be like, oh my gosh, I can't handle this.
There's a part of me that's like, either handle your business, work out the deal, and be on the field, or if you're going to hold out and stay the heck away.
I'm going to play like devil's advocate, right? Like you have the angel. It's like, oh, I'm still supporting my team. Like I want to make sure I'm there. But then also that little devil on your side shoulder where he's like, I don't want to be a distraction. Well, he was the opening report from the sidelines.
They're panning right to him.
Yep. There he is, obviously. And he's the talk of the town. So it's like, if you don't want to be a discussion, then maybe you don't show up and maybe you're not talking to the media and maybe you're just letting the rest of it revolve around what's happening on the field.
Yeah, if we're talking devil on the shoulder, from Chris Jones's perspective, it's, hey, they haven't paid me what I want to be paid. We're not close enough on an agreement for me to concede or be out there in the field, but I'm not going to let them forget about me, and I'm going to make sure that my holdout and my contract dispute is a storyline from the national media perspective. So I'm going to go sit in the box, and I'm going to have Tony Soprano and his henchmen sitting right next to me, and that's going to be a talking point because then whether they win or lose, especially if they lose, it's going to be. Would they have won if Chris Jones was there, if I was there? And I think that's what it is.
If you had to guess right now, will we see Chris Jones in a Chiefs uniform when the Broncos play him?
Yeah.
You think it's going to end quickly?
I think that the Chiefs have proven that when they've got the pieces that they want and feel comfortable with, that they win Super Bowls. They're the defending champs. And I think that they have been willing to play cap gymnastics to make things work before. So yes, he wasn't out there this week. Will he be out there next week? I don't know. The week after, I don't know. But we don't play the Chiefs for almost a month or two into the season, almost 2 months into the season. I think it'll be figured out by then.
Yeah, well, he said he's going to hold out till week 8 if he doesn't get his payday. But
I don't think he'll have to.
Oh, okay. Well, we will see. Of course, that drama is always interesting because it's staying in the AFC West. Raiders coming into town. We are going to get into our picks later on in the show, but I did promise everybody yesterday that we would get to our wild card picks because I did my division winners yesterday. So I'm curious as we start to look ahead to the wild card, who is sticking out in your mind? Or who's going to be the wild card? I think it's such a fun conversation. And I think one that I've got on my list that people may not be thrilled about, but I think it's kind of not too crazy out there. I think the Chargers are going to land a wild card spot.
That's one of mine. If we're talking AFC, I should say they're one of mine, but they're kind of on my, it could be this team or this team. I think they're going to land it. There's two wild card teams that I feel fairly confident about. In the AFC, one being the Ravens, I think the Bengals are the kings of that division.
I have the Steelers over the Raiders or Ravens.
See, so that's my I actually have two teams from that. The Steelers, I think the Steelers and the Ravens have a chance to make. I think you could get three playoff teams out of the AFC North because I think the Ravens have a consistent track record. I think they have an explosive enough offense. They play tightly enough defensively to be in a lot of games. And Lamar Jackson has a dynamic playmaking ability. But I do think you're going to see a step up, a significant jump from the Steelers with Kenny Pickett. They have some weapons in George Pickens, Pat Freiermuth, Deontay Johnson.
Yep. Can't go against Mike Tomlin.
No, two solid running backs in Najee Harris and Jalen Warren. I think that they are going to present a challenge. I could see the Steelers sneaking in on the back end of the wild card in like that 9-8 range, maybe 10-7. Okay. I think the Ravens are double-digit winners, 10, 11, 12 wins. And I think the Bengals might win 12 or 13 games. Okay. So those are my two. And then I think
we have the same one.
The Jets.
Yeah, it's going to be the Jets, baby.
I think the Jets are going to be exactly what we thought the Broncos would have been had they landed Aaron Rodgers. I think they're a 10-win team. They're not good enough to outlast Buffalo, but I think they're good enough to outlast New England. and Miami. And Miami, you never know. I feel like
I have the Dolphins.
I'm quick to count out Miami just because I know that they're good when Tua's on the field, and they have an amazing stable of wide receivers. And defensively, they've been pretty strong for a while now. But I just am not confident until I see it that Tua's going to be on the field for 17 games healthy, given what we've seen the last couple of years. So I think that the Jets have a chance to sneak in there as a wild card team.
I've been saying I'm kind of on the Aaron Rodgers high because I totally agree with you. I think that they are going to be what Broncos country was hoping was going to be with Nathaniel Hackett if they had gotten Aaron Rodgers. Real quick, we're going to run through this. If I have to pick 3 from the NFC, I'm going Seahawks, Giants, and Cowboys.
Okay, I like the Seahawks. I think that Pete Carroll has proven that he can make something work with Geno Smith. The Cowboys, Taylor's oldest time, death, taxes, Cowboys losing the divisional round. So I agree with you there. I think that you could see that. And then I was torn on the third one, and kind of like the Steelers, where I think you're going to see a big jump and things are going to kind of click. I think Chicago is going to be a better team. And I think you could see some Justin Fields magic and like a wild card 9-win wild card back end, maybe 10 wins if things go well. But I'm going to pick the Bears.
Okay, I like that one a lot. Interesting. And I see you kind of going with some sneaky teams in here. It is time, though, for Cecil's Fantasy 5 Tips presented by Hooters. Cecil, good morning. How are you, my friend?
Good morning, everybody. No love for the Washington Commanders as a potential wild card team. I'm going to talk some Commanders football in Fantasy 5, Rachel. So
okay, I like it. I'm here for Sam Howell. Don't get me wrong, but I'm trying not to get too high until we've got some proven record on him. Hit me with what you got for the Commanders, though.
Yeah, the Commanders' version of Tyreek Hill is Jahan Dotson, because remember, we have Eric Bieniemy running that offense, and Terry McLaurin's a little bit banged up. We all love Scary Terry. I hate that nickname, but it just rolls off the tongue so well. We love Terry McLaurin in fantasy purposes. He's wide receiver 2 with upside. When he's healthy, he's not healthy. He should play, but if we look at this situation, we go, Jahan Dotson is the speed guy. Jahan Dotson had the 7 touchdowns last year. It's not even part of his game. So imagine now what Eric Bieniemy can do with him. Jahan Dotson is one of my sleepers this week in Fantasy 5.
Okay, so hit me with this. If you had drafted Travis Kelce and you were like high on life, right? You're like, we got this star. And then all of a sudden you hear about his injury and you're like, what the heck am I going to do on Sunday? If you haven't picked up a tight end, who's some sleeper names that you think people might still be able to find on the market?
Yeah, some names that people should find on the market still would be like an Irv Smith with Cincinnati. We saw him when he was with Minnesota before they got TJ Hawkinson. Like Irv Smith had flashed, he just hadn't stayed healthy. Now with Cincinnati, we know Joe Burrow with that fat wallet is going to be out there. Irv Smith is one of the tight ends that is probably out there on a lot of waiver wires. You could look to New Orleans. They have a plethora of tight ends, including Taysom Hill, who already know, but Juwan Johnson is there. Big body tight end. Saw him at the Shrine Bowl years ago. He's an option, and I can't stop talking about him during the draft. I might as well talk about him now. Luke Musgrave with Green Bay. You've got both Romeo Doubs and Christian Watson banged up. They should play with hamstring injuries, but that could just mean lots of the tight ends. That could be lots of Luke Musgrave there from Jordan Love.
Okay. QBs that you think people should stay away from this week?
Yeah, this week, I don't like Deshaun Watson. I just don't. Now, I could get into the personal stuff, or I could just be like, yeah, as a player, let's keep it on the field, shall we? He hasn't been good. He wasn't good last year. You could say, oh, that's a suspension or whatever. He hasn't been good this preseason. Dorian Thompson-Robinson has looked better, so he's a player that I'm staying away from. Matthew Stafford without Cooper Kupp. Sorry, Van Jefferson lovers, including maybe one sitting at the table with you. I'm not putting my chips on Matthew Stafford. Mac Jones, you guys kind of alluded to it already with New England. It's like, what are they doing there with Mac Jones? Staying away from him. I'm putting a pin in the rookies. So Bryce Young, CJ Stroud, going to be watching those guys. You'd only start them in 2 QB leagues anyway, but I just kind of want to see how these rookies respond. But yeah, there's some guys this week at the QB position I'm just avoiding like kryptonite.
Okay, let's look ahead to the Broncos-Raiders games. Is there anybody you're like, you absolutely must start? Is there anybody you're like, don't do it, not even giving it a second look?
Do you like playing Marco Polo?
I do. I was a swimmer, Cecil, so of course I did.
Okay, very good, very good. Everyone play Jaleel McLaughlin. I'll fix my hair. Everyone starts Jaleel McLaughlin. That's what you do, and then you can be ahead of the curve. I drafted him in an experts league, in a legit experts league with guys that have been in fantasy football for 20 plus years. I took him at the last pick, and people legitimately, and I was surprised, but people in that draft were like, "Who is that guy?" Everyone's going to know the name. If you want to beat the waiver wire, you want to, because next Tuesday there's going to be some waiver wire picks, right? And we're going to be like, who exploded in week 1? Jaleel McLaughlin is one of them. There will be a Jaleel McLaughlin package. I think it'll be larger than people think. I think you have a 1A, 1B situation. 1A is Javonte Williams and Samaje Perine. 1B is all Jaleel McLaughlin. You've got like 3 starting running backs for the Broncos, and they're going to run the ball a lot. Not going to be filling the air with footballs against the Raiders. So, hey, you got a Josh Jacobs? Great. Broncos got a Jaleel McLaughlin. So start him this week and be ahead of the curve.
You think by the end of this season, or actually, let's just even go to the bye week, that it's going to be Javonte, Jaleel, Perine?
It already is.
Oh,
I can't say what I saw at practice, and I know people get annoyed when I say that, but like it already is. I think, and the way that I put it, and I've been told not to say this, so I'll continue to say it. Javonte will have the lead role. There's a portion of the field close to pay dirt where you'll see more Samaje. If it's a fast break situation or a third down situation, you'll see Jaleel. So they've got 3 backs. 2 of them are similar. One is very different. And the one that is very different could get utilized more. That is Jaleel McLaughlin.
I love it. Last one, Cecil. What do you got for anybody?
Yeah, last one is wide receivers. Everyone's got them, and I look at Baltimore. People are crazy about Odell Beckham Jr. That's fine, my voice cracks, but Zay Flowers is the player that I'm expecting to emerge there. And there's some gimmies this week in terms of like just easy games. Baltimore, Houston, yes. Commanders in Arizona, yes. Like stack your teams this week in those games that should be blowouts against those bad teams like Houston, like Arizona. So advantage Baltimore players and advantage your Washington players.
All right, Cecil, were you at all surprised by the Lions, or did you know that the den is now alive and well?
I'm glad they did that, but I went on record as like the Chiefs are going to kick their behinds. I'll try to clean it up.
Too.
I know it's the morning, but yeah, I thought the Chiefs would just roll them with or without Kelce. So the Kelce thing's kind of an excuse, although there were some plays where you saw that's where they missed Travis Kelce.
Oh, 100%. I think that they might have won if Travis Kelce had been out there. However, get him healthy for week 2 if you are a Chiefs fan, and then hopefully you roll for the rest of the season. If you're here in Broncos country, the last thing you want. But Cecil, as always, we appreciate you hanging out with us here on this Friday morning. All thanks to Hooters, Cecil's Fantasy 5 Tips. All right, Richie, let's get down to it, my friend. We got Broncos, Raiders. Cecil's riding high on the Fantasy 5, which you love to see. But he is going saying Jaleel McLaughlin is going to be an absolute stud on Sunday. That surprises me. Not that because he wasn't a stud the entire preseason, not that he wasn't a stud during training camp, but I feel like Sean Payton does like that veteran presence. But I feel like he's just kind of proven himself, even as this young guy that's going out there. And I'm like, let's ride high on him. But at the same time, I don't know how I'm feeling about him starting him in my fantasy league.
Yeah, listen, he's been communicating with me about that same thing, and as a Samaje Perine owner in fantasy, and someone who's been very bullish on Samaje Perine's potential production and what he can do. Having been out there at practices with Cecil, and seeing it live like you and I have,
for sure.
It's hard to argue where Cecil's nose is heading with that. I think I'm going to hang on, and he literally told me not to do this, but I think I'm going to do it anyways because stubborn. I'm going to wait 1 week to see how it plays out because Samaje Perine was handpicked by Sean Payton in free agency. That was his addition. And we have seen Jaleel McLaughlin kind of blossom into the training camp darling, the preseason kind of spark plug offensively and things like that. But it's different in the regular season. There's a level of intensity that increases, and I'm not saying at all that I don't think Jaleel can do the same things in the regular season that we've seen him do so far, but I want to see it first.
He's also going up against second and third string, and we all know, not that there's a huge drop off from first to second to third, But there's a drop off, everybody.
And I've seen Samaje Perine do it against ones for his whole career, in Cincinnati, behind an A1 back in Joe Mixon, who was up near the top for a while.
No, for sure. I'm kind of torn, to be honest, because I do think that we have seen Jaleel kind of take that next step. But like you said, Perine's done it his whole career. Ooh, it's going to be interesting.
Samaje is like the only Broncos player that I drafted in fantasy, for the record. Like I didn't take Russ. I'm scared about Javonte. Jaleel feels like somebody that you pick up on the waiver wire. And I didn't touch the receivers or the tight ends.
I wouldn't touch
because I just don't know. Now, listen,
it's gonna be
in week 2 or 3, could we all be scrambling to try to pick up Greg Dulcich or Russell Wilson
Adam
if he went on
Troutman.
draft, whatever? Sure, but like, I think we've earned a little bit of leeway to say like we'll wait and see fantasy wise with the Broncos.
100%. Which matchup are you looking forward to the most? Mine is Max Crosby and Mike McGlinchey, and I cannot wait. My mouth is like salivating, ready for this matchup, because obviously they paid Mike so much money to come out here and be this big dog.
Mm-hmm.
Well, can he stop one of the biggest names in the NFL?
Yeah, listen, I mean, we've been kind of chewing our fingernails a little bit and twisting and turning in our seats about the Broncos offensive line all offseason, because we just have seen evidence in the preseason that they're not going to be, stellar.
This is going to be the first time we're going to see Mike
on the bookends. And yeah, Mike McGlinchey, who missed a good chunk of the offseason training and all of that. And he's the crown jewel. He was the crown jewel of the offseason for the Broncos. And so I think that's a great one. We'll see what happens on the other side of Max Crosby with Chandler Jones if he ends up being out there, because that would be a challenge for Garrett Bowles as well. So I think that's good. But for me, I wanted to be snarky and say my matchup is I want to see Sean Payton against Josh McDaniels, because
that's a no-brainer.
Because you want to talk about two guys two stubborn alpha cocky guys, one who's proven it in Sean Payton and the other who really hasn't as a head coach in Josh McDaniels.
But thinks he has because he's been under Bill Belichick for so long.
For me, give me the popcorn, put your feet up and watch Pat Surtain and Devontae Adams go head to head again. Devontae got definitely the best of the matchup last time. It was pretty significant. But these two have been chirping and jawing each other ever since. And I am ready to see who gets, the better of it in this one.
If you're placing a bet, who are you taking?
On who wins the matchup?
Yeah.
I'm going to say Pat Surtain. Because I'm not sold on the guy throwing the ball to Devontae this year, and I was last time.
Really? Yep. Jimmy G, you're not sold on?
No, what is okay. Let's go, Jimmy
Richie.
G has like an absurdly good record in games where he's never thrown a touchdown pass. I think he's like 6-0 or something in games where he's thrown for no touchdowns and like 200 or less yards. Jimmy G was a perfect system quarterback for initially Bill Belichick with a very small sample size, and then by extension with Kyle Shanahan, because that offense was predicated around the traditional Shanahan style, hand it off to the running back, doesn't even matter who, and we'll just pound the ball and we're going to win with stifling, suffocating defense, and they have a great X factor in Deebo Samuel. When Jimmy G was relied on, and I understand he played in a Super Bowl, for the 49ers. I understand that all of that. But when Jimmy G has been asked to put a game on his back, a la Patrick Mahomes, a la Russell Wilson in Seattle, things like that, he really hasn't shown a dynamic ability to do that. And he has had a lot of injury issues in recent years. So I'm not sold. Derek Carr rolled out of bed and threw for 4,000 yards and 25 plus touchdowns with a 2.5-to-1 touchdown to interception ratio.
He's getting about as red as he did when he ate the spicy chip over here, everybody. Like, he's fired up about Jimmy G.
I'm not so. I think the Raiders are going to be a mess.
103 quarterback rating last year, threw like 4 interceptions and 16 touchdowns.
I'm telling you.
I think Kyle Shanahan is a much better coach than Josh McDaniels is. So I think there will be a slight drop off just because I think Josh McDaniels is kind of all over the place. But I still think that Jimmy G can sling him still.
Would you rather have Jimmy G than Russell Wilson?
Oof. That's really hard because Jimmy G's in a new system and I guess Russ is too.
Now, Jimmy G was with
Man,
Josh
that's a
McDaniels
tough
in his first
question.
stint with New England, so it's like a reunion, but he was never really the consistent starter.
Yeah. Damn, that's a hard question.
No, it's not. Let's go. It's
You
Russ.
got Russ?
It's Russ. Come
Dude, Russ
on.
looked so bad last year, though.
He did, but that's
What was Russ's
Quit bringing up the past, Rachel.
But
It's
hold
this is
on.
the new year. Russell Wilson's quarterback rating was
looking-
double digits. It was not.
Russell Wilson's quarterback rating was 84.4.
That's a B. If it's out of 100, when it's out of 150, that's like an F. But
it was not good. Ugh.
I'm taking Russ because I think Russ has a higher ceiling. I will always take a higher ceiling even if it means accepting a lower floor, because I'm a gambling man. So if you're going to tell me like, yeah, Jimmy G's never going to be, below X, but he's never going to be high enough to get you to win a championship, which he hasn't proven to be yet, then at least give me a shot. If I bomb, I bomb, but I'll just try again. I'm
reading the comments. Let us know who you would rather have be the quarterback, Jimmy G or Russell Wilson. Hackett was trash last year. Russ was not the issue. Let's hope we find that out.
Hackett was trash last year, but Russ was definitely part of the problem. He's got to get better, but I think Sean Payton can fix it.
I like Rachel's honesty. Sorry, I'm just going to give you what I think. Does Jimmy make 50 mil? Let's see. Jimmy has brain farts.
No, but Jimmy G signed that deal before he was traded. I think he's like in the $25, $26 million range.
He's definitely
he's the lowest paid quarterback in the division, but it's because he's the longest one since they've signed an extension.
My favorite thing. No Melvin Gordon to fumble the game away. All right. Well,
that's true.
Even if Melvin's not on the team, he still gets brought in.
Listen, I was accused, justifiably so, of being a pretty strong Melvin Gordon defender because I did feel like, despite some untimely turnovers, that he could still tote the rock. He was an above-average receiver out of the backfield. But it got hard for me, even me at the end, who there were memes of me, somebody blocking these bullets from someone, and it was I was that, and Melvin Gordon was who I was protecting. But it got hard for me, even at the end. The fumbles came at you couldn't have fumbled at worse times.
No.
I mean, it was brutal. And Javonte had some bad ones too.
Yes.
Not as many, but that game that everyone talks about where Melvin Gordon fumbled inside the 5 and all that on the goal line, Javonte did it later in the game too. So no one's perfect, but yeah, I do think that ball security will be better.
Melvin Gordon stan over here.
Listen.
He's going to get just as red as he did on the chip.
Okay, Jimmy G why he Melvin drives Gordon. People nuts, but and again, I walked it back. I had to walk it back by the end, but I tried. I'm a ride or die.
Broncos are favored by 3. Mm-hmm. Are you taking that bet or no?
See, that's interesting because it's depending on where you get it from. It's 2.5, 3 on the nose, or 3.5. Mm-hmm. If it's 2.5, I'll take that. If it's 3, I'm going to take it, but I hate taking it without the hook because you get the opportunity for a push. 3.5, I'm nervous because I just think it's a divisional game where players and coaches are familiar.
Also, I hate the fact having a division game week 1. I hate it so much. I curse the schedule makers anytime they do. I'm like, let everybody kind of roll into the season.
Let's get a little warm-up. Can we get a tune-up game?
Please and thank you. I hate it.
Can we play the Texans?
I am going to take the Broncos, though, this weekend. I think Sean Payton is going to have a great start. Maybe not the most fantastic thing in the world, but I think it'll be somewhat of a game, and I think they will walk away victorious.
I would take it even at 3.5, even though it's my least favorite number to take, you know, when you're talking about a spread. The Coach Prime era started off with a bang out of a cannon.
Yeah.
I don't know that the Sean Payton era has all that razzle dazzle and pizzazz, but I think that the Sean Payton era starts off on the right foot. I do think that they take advantage of a team that's got a little bit of their house is a little untidy. Mm-hmm. And it starts off with a win. But I will say this. I don't think it's just going to be a blowout, and I don't think that you can just overlook them, which I think we in Broncos country tend to do. Sometimes I hear so often, and I even hear it from guys on our own station who I chastise for it as well. You know, Raiders going to Raider and Chargers going to Charge. It's well, the Broncos have been Broncoing for 7 years now, and it sucks. It sucks.
2019 was the last time they beat the Raiders.
Exactly. So the Raiders going to Raiders worked out 6 out of the last 6 times. The last time it didn't work was when John Gruden wanted to lose the game. and was smirking when they went for 2 and Drew Lock ended up winning that game and all that. So you could argue it would have been 7 for 7 if they probably really wanted to. So let's just, wait before we throw stones in our glass house a little bit as Broncos country.
Now, to be honest, I think almost an even bigger question is, are the Buffs going to buff? Are they going to lose to Nebraska with the world watching at 10 a.m. on Saturday morning up in Boulder?
Listen, don't make me get up and get that chain and that cowboy hat and all that stuff.
I'm riding with Coach Prime, everybody.
Hell
Let's
yeah.
go.
They are not, the Buffs are not going to buff, whatever that means. Nebraska sucks but again, they're a Big Ten team.
I think it'll be a good game.
I think it'll be a closer game longer. Like, it's not going to be this back and forth shootout. I think you're going to see more. You're going to need a defensive effort, greater than what we saw against TCU.
Yep.
And I won't be stunned if that offense doesn't put up 45 points again. I think
neither one have a good defense.
We're already, I feel like, just now because of that week 1, I think every Buffs game, our score predictions are going to be like, oh yeah, 37-24. It's
100%.
like, well, like they might win some games 24-17,
It's going to ride on Shedeur. It's going to. I can't wait for tomorrow morning. Even though it's going to be an early morning, lots of coffee to be had, it's going to be a really, really fun atmosphere. Let us know if you are going to the game in the comments or if you're going to be tuning in. I'm so excited for tomorrow. The atmosphere is going to be unreal. I know Shannon Sharp and Stephen A. Smith are going to be in the building.
Oh, I saw Michael Irvin on a plane.
Yeah.
I'm
calling Tom Brady. That's my big guess.
Oh, we have to meet him.
I'm calling Tom Brady.
Have to find him.
If anyone sees him, let me know. Tag me on Twitter or X, whatever the hell we're calling it nowadays. But it is Friday, you guys. We hope you have a wonderful weekend. So much good football this weekend. We'll be back Monday morning, 10:30 a.m. to talk all about it. And make sure you follow us both on X, Twitter, whatever it is going to be, because we're going to have all the behind-the-scenes stuff. We're both going to be at the games. We will see you guys then. Bye, everybody. Have a wonderful weekend.